Hello, this is Socially Triggered, and this video is going to be on first world problems. One of the things that I've learned, and this was kind of a bit of a shock in a way, was the idea that a lot of the problems that we complain about are really first world problems. They're not the issues that are really impacting the majority of people on the earth. Most people, outside of the small bubble of North America and Europe and maybe parts of Asia, really have it very tough. If you look at some Asian countries, some African countries, some South American countries, they are suffering. Their very survival is really at the whim of whether or not they'll find enough food that day or whether things will go well for them that day. And they might die. They are living in a very precarious situation. And if you look at humanity from the very beginning, this is the way we always lived. We lived with the concept of, are we going to survive today? How are we going to survive today? And it was a very day-to-day basis that survival was based on. There was very little knowledge that we could survive beyond a day. People died a lot, and that was a real problem, that we didn't have the time or ability to think beyond the daily survival. And if you look at many early civilizations, that was really a problem, that they had to really base their whole existence on just how do we survive today. And as things improved, you got a situation where they could think about bigger things. When people, were able to produce more food, and all of a sudden you had the development of societies where they would actually be able to produce ideas and, develop and make life easier and easier. And that's what we have now. We have a very easy life in the West. And as a result, we have the situation where, as the proverb says, good times create weak men, and weak men create good times create weak men, and weak men create bad times, and bad times create strong men. So in the past, we had bad times, and that created strong men who built societies to protect their families, and they built a way to survive, and they, built these great societies that we live in now, where we don't have to worry about food, we don't have to worry about shelter, we don't have to worry about so many of the things that most common man would normally have to worry about. And as a result, we have time to worry about new things. So we worry about stuff that didn't matter before. And these are first world problems. These are things that don't really matter. So, for example, I have many offices overseas. Actually, in the Philippines, I have 3 offices. And one of my offices in the Philippines, I visited a few times. And when I go there, I'm like, you can't leave your first world problems behind in a way. You kind of think about them still, because it's really annoying, all these social justice crap that goes on right now. So I talk about it with my staff over there, and they're like, yeah, they just can't relate. They're like, what are you talking about? They just don't relate to it. So, for example, I'll go on about, how there's so much transgender activism. And in the Philippines, the way that they deal with transgenders is actually kind of cool. Because they have bigger issues. They're worried about, am I going to have enough money to live? They don't really worry about transgenderism. So if they see somebody that's transgender, like a guy dressed as a girl, who cares? They don't care, because it's not important. And in a way, that's a much better way of reacting towards it, because what happens is here, we do worry about it. We worry, are they going to be marginalized? Are they oppressed by society? And we do activism, and we drive everyone crazy with this non-issue. It's a first world problem. It's not really important. And we drive people crazy. And, it could have been the case that nobody really cared about whether somebody is transgendered or not. But because they force it down our throats, they say, oh, you got to embrace transgenderism. You have to accept them for who they are, and blah, 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 blah. And then you're like, well, geez, I have now free time on my hands. I'm thinking about it. Does it make sense? And you're like, maybe it doesn't make sense. And their activism actually makes you not like that group. And it makes you annoyed by that group. And the fact that they ask for more rights for that group is really annoying. And that's a first world problem. So it's like, basically, the problems that we have in our society now, these first world problems, probably wouldn't be a problem if we didn't push it so much, if we didn't have this boredom and excessive time on our hands where we can make small problems into big ones. And that's really the problem in our society right now. We have all these small problems that really aren't that important, but we make them into problems. And we push everyone in our society to like become like very polar on it, like where you're either pro gay rights or anti-gay rights, and there's no in between. and you know, it's everyone's like really reactionary to it, and they're really aggressive about it, and they have to like, because this is a problem that we have to solve, and if we don't solve it, the whole world will collapse and blow up or whatever. And that's the way we treat things. And it's crazy that we make these small problems that really don't impact anybody, that really aren't that important, into these huge problems that we see as life or death. And I really do believe that it goes back to the way humans kind of were biologically evolved, that we do need problems. Because one of the things is a survival mechanism is that if you have a problem like survival, then you have to put all your energy towards it. You have to figure out, how can I survive? So when you remove that problem of finding food or finding shelter or all these kind of important things, then the little things that aren't really important get all that energy that you would normally put into the survival things, and you just overthink it. You put too much emphasis on it, and it becomes a huge problem. So you'll notice that in the West, people are much more neurotic. We're very, very stressed. Like if you look at people in these poorer countries, they don't have time to be stressed. They're so focused on just surviving that in a way they're happier, even though they're suffering more. It's the craziest thing, because they're just happy. Oh, I got some food today. I'm happy. It's really that basic. And the funny thing is, here, we worry about all these like really non-important issues, and it's just making us crazy. It's making us like very neurotic, and it's not a good way to live. So this has been my kind of thoughts on first world problems, and I see it in myself. I become like so agitated with all these kind of first world problems, and I make a big deal about it, and probably they're not such a big deal. And it's great that we have this luxury of free time where we can think about these ideas. But sometimes I wonder if maybe we think about them too much. Maybe sometimes we just have to go out and relax, or go out and, camp or something, do something that gets our minds off these kind of silly first world problems. Maybe experience, real hardship, and maybe then we'll appreciate how great our lives are and how really minor these problems are. So this has been my thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on first world problems? What do you think are the biggest first world problems that people go on about that really aren't problems? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Give me some feedback below. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.